Many thanks for joining us. This is Qtv News and I am Ajibintu Drame. First, the main local, international and sport news headlines. We will have a quick update on COVID-19 cases in the country following yesterday's record one-day rise in cases. The government announces that the wearing of face masks is to be made compulsory. The contentious local government bill finally gets through Parliament. We hear how. Our laws banning skin bleaching have been on the statute books for over 2 decades. We find out what happened when Parliament sought to repeal them. The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, told deputies on Wednesday that she could not confirm when the street lights, Wi-Fi and CCTV cameras will be provided in Birkama. In international news, we find out why the U.S. State Department is seeking to confiscate a luxurious mansion bought by ex-President Jammeh. And the West African country of Gabon has appointed its first female prime minister. In sports, we get to hear what Gambia's elite football referees have been doing during the COVID-19 affected weeks. Those were the main headlines, and now the news in detail. In local news, on Thursday, 16 July, the Gambia announced 14 new confirmed positive coronavirus cases, bringing the total number of COVID-19 cases to 78. Here is a report giving brief breakdown of those figures from Bintu Kuka.
On Thursday, July 16, the Gambia yesterday announced 14 new confirmed positive coronavirus cases, bringing the total number of COVID-19 cases to 78. The 14 cases mark the highest number registered in a 24-hour period since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of the 14 new cases, 13 are Gambians and 1 Senegalese. 8 are healthcare workers, 2 housewives, 1 carpenter, and 1 businesswoman. The occupation of the other 2 are not specified. 8 of these new cases, who are healthcare workers, had contact with case 61 or case 64. The country currently has 663 people quarantined, 41 active cases and 9 probable cases. There have been 3 deaths linked to the novel coronavirus. A further breakdown of the new cases records 7 Gambian females, 6 Gambian males, 10 of the cases are local transmission and 4 are imported. The total positive cases recorded is 78 since 17th March 2020. Bintu Koka, Qtv News.
The government of the Gambia on Friday announced that the wearing of face masks in public is to be made compulsory. Babukasi reports.
The announcement by the government spokesperson, Ibrahima G. Sankare, came at a press conference organized by the Ministry of Information Communication Infrastructure, the first in what is expected to be a weekly event. He informed journalists present that the decision was approved by government on Thursday and that failure to abide by the law will face consequences from the police. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to cause harm, particularly for the poorest countries. The latest initiative, if implemented, will give the police more work to do, even as citizens continue to complain about the hardship occasioned by the pandemic. This is how government spokesperson Ibrahima G. Sankare made the revelations and explained the reasons behind it.
Mask wearing is now mandatory in the Gambia. In fact, beginning immediately, effective immediately, mask wearing is mandatory. However, since it was not announced, and given the fact that it involves some little cost here and there, up to next Friday, people should start now having the habit of mask wearing, because you can be assured that by next Friday, you will start having problems with the police if they see you on the streets and you are not in a mask. You have to explain why.
The question that will perhaps be lingering in many minds is the availability of face masks. Is the government going to provide masks to the public before the police will start accosting people in the street?
Not everybody can afford the mask. But the reusable mask, we think people should also make efforts. I think government cannot provide everyone everything all the time. This mask you are putting on, the cloth type, how many pieces can be obtained from one piece of wrapper? If you cut one piece of wrapper you can even get 30 or 40 masks from that. So I think we should also endeavor to get little things for ourselves.
The Information Minister, Ibrahim Silla, was asked to explain how government expects to enforce such a law.
Everybody in this country would understand the need to prevent oneself from this disease, and that we will see the need to wear the mask, and that the police would not have to have the recourse to force people to prevent themselves from a disease that is deadly. The police are part of us, they are our own, and they should be seen to be the last resort in helping ourselves, in a pandemic situation like this.
Many citizens are already complaining of not receiving the government COVID-19 support both in and outside the country. With the latest announcement by the government on compulsory wearing of face masks in public, they have given citizens something else to complain about and discuss. Babu Karsi, Qtv News.
Members of the area councils can be independent of their political parties and party leaders after the National Assembly finally enacted the much talked about and contentious Local Government Amendment Bill 2020. Aliou Cisse reports.
The contentious private members bill brought by the member for Lower Badibo, Alaji Jawara, was read on Friday for the third time and enacted. It now grants independence to members of the area councils from their political parties and party leaders. Despite being contentious, the bill was nevertheless supported by the majority of the House, who believe members of the councils, just as the lawmakers, should be given the independence and autonomy by law to work without fear of losing their job in the event of being rejected from their party. On the other hand, the UDP-affiliated MPs are against the bill and are concerned about its true motives.
I move that the bill entitled Local Government Amendment Bill 2020 be read a third time and pass. I beg to move. Thank you.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill entitled to the Local Government Amendment Bill 2020 be read third time and pass. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those not in favor, please say no. No.
It was a proud moment for Alaji Jawara, who together with 7 other MPs was expelled by the UDP for expressing support for President Barrow. However, he maintains that the reason for the amendment is to enhance good governance at the local council level.
I feel honored and I feel very happy today. I'm very, very, very happy because this is something that it is our responsibility to do that.
What will be your message to those that supported your bill and those that voted against it?
My message to them is, we are all human beings, and then naturally the nature of human being is a selfish being. But despite all that, we should not look into ourselves always, but also those that we are with. That is the people who serve us here. We are people reps. So if you are representing people here, those people concerned should be always in your mind. What can I do for these people? How am I going to guide these people? How am I going to save these people? So my message to them, those who voted for the bill, I will tell them congratulations to all of us. I will thank them because left to me alone, my effort cannot do this. So I'm happy in the sense that now Gambia, we have people who don't see any party. What we see is the nation. So I am very much happy about that sense of direction. And those who don't vote for the bill, then this is a trial moment for them also to take their mind and see that yes, it's high time now. Gambians are seeing Gambia, but not a political organization. Political institutions are very good institutions, which a state is much more powerful than that. So therefore, I'm urging them also to come on board and let's see Gambia.
Now that it is enacted, members of the councils will no longer fear losing their seats just because they are expelled from their political parties under which they were elected, as was the case before this change. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Aliou Cisse.
The National Assembly on Thursday read for the second time a bill to repeal one of our laws that prohibits skin bleaching in the Gambia. Lawmakers have been debating the merits of the bill, with the majority of speaking against its repeal on various grounds. QTV's Mobdo Lamin Choi was at the Parliament and he now reports.
It was the second reading of the skin bleaching prohibition repeal bill, which was introduced before the National Assembly last month by the Ministry of Justice. Skin bleaching is currently illegal in our country, and the executive is seeking to decriminalize it, as it has existed for decades without effective enforcement.
Section 25 of the Women's Act recognizes the need for periodic review of legislation every 10 years to ensure further compliance with our international obligations as enshrined in the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women and the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and the Rights of Women in Africa.
The debate on the merits and general principles of this bill has attracted divergent views from MPs, with only just a few of them speak in support of it, with an emphasis that prohibition of skin bleaching puts restraints on individual rights and liberties, and that it is a law that discriminates against and oppresses women and girls.
Against this act, so therefore we should repeal it, to take it from our books, so that those who bleach, those who want to bleach, they can do it at their liberty.
If you tell me it may affect an individual, yes, perhaps, but that is the individual's choice to do what they want to do.
Culture, religion, morality, and health are the basis of the argument for some lawmakers who are against repealing the act. From the other side of the parliamentary debate, some National Assembly members call for control, protection, and sensitization of the public on the law, also expressing disapproval of repealing the Skin Bleaching Prohibition Act.
We are doing it in the spirit that the people should have their freedom, but equally we are also conscious to the fact that we are not promoters of the act of skin bleaching.
So nobody can justify today that the bleach, the chemical that women or we use on our body is unharmful.
The law has existed for more than 2 decades, and hardly anyone has been arrested and charged for violating it. The law could be enforced, but some NAMs criticize that it has failed to serve its purpose since it came into effect. And whether it is enforceable in the country is up for debate before lawmakers, some of whom questioned the likelihood of it being enforced in our present-day society. The Minister of Justice responds to the issues raised by MPs during the general debate on the merits and principles of the bill, emphasizing that the law is discriminatory and that the decision to repeal it is to address the problems it poses for people. As reflected in arguments during the debate, it was already evident what the majority of the House were likely to decide in terms of the fate of the bill at this reading. The second reading of the bill was put to a vote and it was rejected. This is not the end of the bill's life. It can still move on to the committee report on the third reading stages where it could suffer a defeat. However, given the strength of feeling and numbers against a repeal, the minister may decide to withdraw the motion on the bill for adjustments or even to drop it. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, told the National Assembly on Wednesday that she could not confirm when the street lights, Wi-Fi and CCTV cameras will be provided in Birkama. As Aliou Cissé reports, she also revealed government steps for closer collaboration with diaspora Gambians.
VP Toure informed the Parliament that she couldn't, at this time, confirm when the street lights will be provided in Brikama, along with the Wi-Fi and CCTV cameras as was promised by the President in 2017 during a meeting. Despite this, she remains confident that it will happen.
However, it is important to state that the goal of the government, under His Excellency Adama Barrow, is to deliver a fully transformed Gambia that has a future, a country that is energy secure, food self-sufficient, and an investment-friendly destination that is doing business in the Gambia. Energy is part and parcel of the flagship programs of the Gambia's Development Blueprint, NDP 2018 to 2021. The construction of the first OMVG hydroelectric power station, connecting communities from Jarasoma, Lower River region, to Brikama, West Coast region, is at an advanced stage to deliver a significant impact on the economic and social front.
She says the Gambia is on the right track based on the current digital plans to exploit and harness the benefits of information and communication technology through the communications and digital policy.
The aim is to provide a more secured and enhanced connectivity to the world's digital economy as a means for modernization and youth empowerment. Already, Gamtel, in partnership with LIP Gambia in 2019, implemented a pilot project in Westfield and at the Independence Stadium during the last trade fair, aimed at providing only limited Wi-Fi services to customers as a starting point. Evaluation of this project has demonstrated that it will be feasible to scale it up in Brikama and other targeted sites sooner than later.
She disagrees that the promise was a mere campaign propaganda to score political points and said it is something the government is obliged to provide for its people. She was questioned on the quantity of food aid distributed and the status of those still without.
The actual amount of rice, sugar, and oil dispatched to the regions were 236,269 50 kg bags, 237 189 50 kg bags, and 71,416.5 20-liter gallons, respectively. We had a complaint box, a table, and we also had access to them. They were able to get the supplementary list, and it became a supplementary list, and they are being considered. They will all get, inshallah.
She says the government recognizes the importance of a diaspora region in national development, hence the need to engage them in, among other things, the drafting of the new constitution. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Aliu Sise.
We will go for a short commercial break. The news continues when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Qtv News. Project Aid the Gambia on Wednesday presented 11,000 face masks to 27 health facilities in the North Bank region at the presentation held at Bunyadu Health Center. Momodu Gajaga has more.
The reusable face masks are for staff and patients of the health facilities. This support is among many that Project Aid the Gambia have been giving to the health sector since its establishment in 1986.
The project supplied 8,000 masks to all the facilities within CRR. But again, they say no, this is not the end. CRR is not only the region that we operate. We operate as well in the North Bank. Then today, we are issuing 11,000 masks to the entire North Bank region. And possibly, inshallah, on Friday, we are giving 4,000 masks to the EFHTS, that is in Banjul.
According to the WHO, wearing face masks help prevent the spread of the coronavirus, as does frequent hand washing and social distancing.
We realize that the strategies to stop the spread of COVID-19 is very important, and one of that strategy is the use of the face masks. And face masks, we know there was one time the onset of the disease, the spread of the disease, it was a problem because there are a shortage even at developed countries, much more developing countries. We assure you that these face masks will be put into good use.
Wearing face masks has become mandatory in some countries experiencing a spike in COVID-19 infections. When someone coughs, talks, sneezes, they could release germs in the air that may infect others nearby. Face masks are part of an infection control strategy to prevent the virus. Despite the extension of the state of public emergency by the President for another 7 days, from Wednesday the 15th of July, not many people wear face masks and maintain social distancing, even in public gatherings. This raises the question about the effectiveness of extending the state of public emergency with little or no enforcements. With COVID-19 cases on the rise in the country, we are at the mercy of the virus if we continue to downplay the severity, the existence or adhering to WHO guidelines. It is hoped the donated face mask will be used by and reach the intended recipients. Mamudu Gajaga, Qtv News.
And now to international news. Following the announcement by the U.S. State Department of the seizure of the U.S. property purchased by ex-President Jammeh and his wife, we dig deeper into this story.
Former President Jammeh used proceeds from bribery and other forms of corruption to purchase a mansion for $3.5 million in an exclusive suburb of Washington, D.C. in 2010. This is according to a U.S. Department of Justice civil forfeiture complaint filed against the former president on Wednesday, 15 July. In the particulars of the complaint, the Justice Department claimed that the former president, through an unidentified employee of a petroleum company, opened a trust account and arranged for the transfer of roughly $1 million in cash to the account and less than 1 month before the property sale. And 1 day after the transfer, the petroleum company received a reaffirmance of its fuel importation monopoly rights in the Gambia. In a press release from the Justice Department, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland, Robert Holm, is quoted to have said, "This action demonstrates that the United States will not allow criminals to profit from their crimes and will seek justice for crime victims both here and abroad." According to the release, the complaint was brought under the Justice Department's Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative, which seeks to forfeit the proceeds of foreign official corruption and, where appropriate, to use those recovered assets to benefit the people harmed by these acts of corruption and abuse of office. The Justice Department's complaint drew substantially from the conclusions of the Jammeh Commission, which looked into the financial dealings of the former president and accused him of embezzling hundreds of millions of dollars from public funds, and also accepted bribes and kickbacks in exchange for granting monopoly rights to businesses over sectors of the Gambian economy. And in March 2019, an investigative group called the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project said in a report Jammeh and his associates plundered nearly $1 billion of timber resources and Gambia's public funds. In this country, however, the implementation of the government's white paper on the Jammeh Commission has been the source of much heated political debate, social commentary, and legal action. And a recent Court of Appeal decision has thrown doubt over the legality of the government's enforcement of the Jammeh Commission recommendations. In 2017, the U.S. Treasury Department announced sanctions against Jammeh, including barring him and his family from entering the U.S., saying that he had a long history of engaging in serious human rights abuses and corruption. A civil forfeiture complaint is simply an allegation which must be proven in court to get judgment. And should the court decide in favor of the U.S., would the theft be returned to the Gambia? In previous cases featuring seized Nigerian assets, that is exactly what happened. All the same, the complaint in itself raises the possibility of the dismantling of the world of rogue financial dealings, as revealed in the Panama Papers, which allow kleptocratic leaders to siphon off their country's GDPs, invariably to furnish lavish lifestyles while leaving their countries destitute. For QTV News, I am Mamudu Mbouch.
Gabon's President Ali Bongo has appointed Christiane Osuka Raponda as the country's first female prime minister, who becomes the first woman to head the government in the oil-rich West African country. Loli M. Camara has more.
President Bongo said the priority mission of the new Prime Minister will include the economic revival and the continuation of the social support of the Gabonese people in a world context marked by the impact of the crisis linked to COVID-19. The 56-year-old replaces Julian Kochi Bekali, who held the post for 18 months. Gabon is heavily dependent on oil for income, and as such, the Central African state has been badly hit by the slump in the price of crude oil, as well as the impact of COVID-19 on trade. Osoka Ramboda is an economist who graduated from the Gabonese Institute of Economy and Finance, specializing in public finance. She became the budget minister in 2012 and then the first female mayor of the capital Libreville in 2014 as a candidate for Bongo's Gabonese Democratic Party, PDG. Her new appointment comes at a time when opposition and civil society leaders are questioning Bongo's fitness to govern after he suffered a stroke in October 2018. The president spent many months abroad for treatment, mainly in Saudi Arabia, during which time the country was hit by an attempted coup in January 2019. Several months later, the authorities launched a vast anti-corruption drive that led to the imprisonment of Bongo's right-hand man, Brice Lacroche Alehanga, and 20 associates, including 4 former ministers. Bongo was elected into office in 2009 after the death of his father, Omar, who led the country for 42 years. The president reappeared in the media on Monday after several weeks of absence, pictured at a meeting of heads of the various branches of the armed forces and police. He is reportedly expected to travel abroad for a holiday amid more rumors about his health. In fact, many Gabonese suspect the holiday is more medical treatment. Since its independence from France in 1960, Gabon has only had 3 presidents. In the early 1990s, Gabon introduced a multi-party system and a new democratic constitution that allowed for a more transparent electoral process and reformed many governmental institutions. Whatever the reason for the president's overseas visit, the new prime minister, the 6th person to hold that post under this president, will have a full entry to deal with. The country's 2.1 million people are expecting a lot. We wish her luck. Lolly M. Kamara for Qtv News.
A row has broken out between the International Criminal Court and the United States of America after the court initiated legal efforts to investigate alleged war crimes committed in Afghanistan. QTV's Mamadou Lamin Choi tells us how the court's chief prosecutor, a Gambian, has been making headlines around the world with this case.
ICC came up with a preliminary report in 2016 which indicated there was a reasonable basis to believe U.S. and Afghan forces had committed war crimes of torture and ill-treatment in Afghanistan. At the helm of the legal efforts to pursue the matter is a Gambian lawyer, Fatoumata Bensouda, the ICC's chief prosecutor. In the hope of opening a path to justice for countless victims of war crimes in Afghanistan, she filed a formal request to the ICC's pre-trial judges for permission to initiate an investigation into war crimes and crimes against humanity in relation to the Afghan war. The move infuriated the USA, which does not wish claims of war crimes by U.S. military personnel in Afghanistan war to be investigated by the ICC or anyone else, and therefore wasted no time in slamming the ICC chief prosecutor with sanctions by revoking her U.S. visa in 2019. Fatoumata Bensouda simply restated her commitment to acting professionally without fear or favor. The same year, Bensouda's request to investigate war crimes in Afghanistan was unanimously rejected by ICC judges who argued that an investigation into the situation in Afghanistan at that stage would not serve the interests of justice. On the 3rd, the chief prosecutor filed an appeal less than 3 months after her initial request was rejected and succeeded when the ICC appeal judges authorized Ms. Bensouda's office to open an investigation in March 2020. Apart from bringing all the perpetrators to justice, this would represent the first time U.S. nationals are being held criminally accountable for alleged war crimes committed in Afghanistan, even though the U.S. is not a signatory to the ICC. President Trump's administration showed their exasperation with these developments by extending its sanctions against ICC staff investigating American troops and intelligence operatives and that of its allies, including Israel. While the U.S. promises to use any means possible to protect her citizens from prosecution, the ICC and the Office of the Chief Prosecutor in particular are even more resolute in making sure that there is justice for the victims of war crimes in Afghanistan. The USA's reaction is similar to its reaction after the infamous The My Lai massacre on 16 March 1968. U.S. troops killed between 347 and 504 unarmed civilians. Eventually, 26 soldiers were charged with criminal offenses, but only Lieutenant William Calley Jr., a platoon leader, was convicted and found guilty of killing 22 villagers. Originally given a life sentence, he served just 3.5 years under house arrest despite the seriousness of the incident. As the ICC is the court of last resort, it only brings cases if national jurisdictions are either unable or unwilling to bring a genuine prosecution. For many observers, the unwillingness of the USA to be investigated seems to be about putting forward the narrative that their troops are too disciplined to commit war crimes. What happened at My Lai suggests that it is not the case. This outcome and the fallout of this latest case are being watched around the globe. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
We will go with another short commercial break, and when we return, we take a quick look at sport news. Welcome back, and now on to sport news. Even as football leagues are shut down, including here in the Gambia, match officials need to keep abreast of the ever-evolving rules of the game. Here is a short report.
A 5-day referees training course is underway at the Football Hotel and is due to end today, Friday. The course is being undertaken by 33 Elite A referees, 28 male and 5 female, selected from the Division 1 league. The president of the Gambia Referee Association, John Mendy, said the course will update referees' skill sets and bring them up to speed on the new amendments in the laws of the game.
This is a virtual online course, a Zoom online course for referees. We normally have it every year where we have the instructors from all over sent by FIFA. But this year we all know what is happening because of this COVID-19 pandemic. The restrictions are there. Instructors cannot travel to the Gambia, but football needs to go on, especially refereeing, because we are the arbitrators of football. We need to abreast ourselves with the latest development in football, especially the latest technology, the latest concept in refereeing. So by virtue of that, FIFA thought it wise that they should have a virtual meeting so that they can abreast or update the referees.
Mr. Mendy said the referees discussed the hand law, offside, and the tactical fouls during the courses.
And then we talked about holding in football. If you are a referee, we talk about offside, and we'll talk about tactical fouls. Then we will talk about fouls and misconducts and a host of other things. The objective is to update the referees, especially also there is another one I forgot, the new laws. In football, we have laws which are amended by the International Football Association Board. We call them IFAB. So if they are out, sometimes if you can get the laws, that's why the referees are specialists. We interpret and apply. Other people can interpret outside who are not referees, but the application is where the difference is. That's the unique difference. So they teach us how to apply them. If new laws have just been introduced by IFAB, they ensure that all the member association gets it.
For Aissatou Toure, the elite female central referee in the Gambia, her view is that without the course, they will find it difficult to officiate the matches correctly.
This course is very important to us because, as you know, the law has changed. There are new amendments in the laws of the game. So without this course, we will not be able to do our games correctly in the field of play. So it's very helpful.
Aissatou also informed us that there are 4 female FIFA referees.
We are 5 in numbers. We have 4 female, 4 FIFA referees and 1 elite referee. So we are 5 in number.
That means in the Gambia now we have 4 female FIFA certified referees.
Exactly. We have 2 FIFA central and 2 assistants.
So what do you have to tell your friends and people who are watching, the referees, who are people who are not yet referees, that is the ladies who want to be referees? What are you going to tell them to encourage them to be referees?
Okay, it's not easy to be a female referee, but you just have to commit yourself.
The course instructors, Alan Lim from Mauritius and Mademba Mbake of Senegal, are both currently in their respective countries giving out the lectures, while Gambian referees are led by Bakary Papa Gassama, Africa's #1 referee, serving as the local instructor on the ground. The program is facilitated by GFF referee manager Sidi Mane. When it is over, the attendees should feel more confident about being up to date with the latest developments in the game. Answane Sonyasi for Qtv News.
Before we end this bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. We had a quick update on COVID-19 cases in the country following yesterday's record one-day rise in cases. The government announced that the wearing of face masks is to be made compulsory from next week. The contentious local government bill finally got through Parliament. The laws banning skin bleaching have been on the statute books for over 2 decades. We found out what happened when Parliament sought to repeal them. The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, told deputies on Wednesday that she could not confirm when the street lights, Wi-Fi and CCTV cameras will be provided in Birkama. In international news, we got to find out why the U.S. State Department is seeking to confiscate a luxury mansion bought by ex-President Jammeh. And the West African country of Gabon has appointed its first ever female prime minister. In sports, we also heard what Gambia's elite football referees have been doing during the COVID-19 affected weeks. That's all we have for you in this bulletin. Thanks for watching and join us tomorrow for another bulletin.